was to maintain my fitness in the future. Goal number 5. We have newer vehicles owned outright. This I would say as an affirmation, and I would feel how good it felt not to have any coupon books for car payments. Goal number 6. We have disposable money to have real vacations. At the time I wrote this affirmation, we were broke, and the only vacations we could afford were to take time off from work and have a staycation at home in Florida. For this visualization, I would see us going on a ski trip to Colorado, and I would see my wife saying how much fun she was having, and I would have a feeling of gratitude that she was happy. Goal number 7. I am able to give a lot of money to help others in need, and I do. When I wrote this goal, I knew that I wanted to be a philanthropist. The reason I say that is that my wife and I had become active in Habitat for Humanity, which is a great cause. Habitat helps lower-income people afford a nice new home that they could not otherwise afford. The homeowners who get these homes pay for their down payment through sweat equity, which can often take them over a year to complete. On one Saturday morning, I asked the construction supervisor what types of appliances came with the finished homes. He said that they just came with a stove and a refrigerator. I told him that my wife and I were moving from a house to a condo and that we would not need our washer and dryer and would like to donate them if we could. The supervisor said that Mary, not her real name, could really use them as she was a single mother with 4 children. We had actually been working on her house together that morning. I walked over to her and said that I heard that this was going to be her house. She replied with, "Yes, isn't it just beautiful?" I then asked her if she could use a washer and dryer for her new house, and that we had a set that we didn't need. I have a hard time describing what happened next. Mary screamed out, "Yes!" in excitement, and then hugged me. When she hugged me, this amazing feeling of joy rushed through my body. It was as if my whole body was buzzing. I had never felt anything like it before, but if this was what being charitable was like, I wanted to have this feeling all of the time. To visualize this goal, I would see myself being at the ribbon cutting for a new home to be donated to a family by Habitat. I would see myself being called up to hand the scissors and the keys to the new family. I could feel that feeling I had from Mary's hug, and I could see people clapping in joy for the new family. When I did this visualization, I would always end up with tears of joy in my eyes. Goal number 8. I live near the beach and have a beautiful home. This I said as an affirmation, and I would have a feeling of gratitude for how happy I was to live near the beach. Goal number 9. I own a large real estate portfolio. I also said this as an affirmation to reinforce goal number 3 of being a full-time real estate investor. Goal number 10. I am trusted by investors and have the ability to raise large sums of money. At the time I wrote this, I only had 2 investors who were really close friends. I would say this as an affirmation with the feeling that this was absolutely true. Goal number 11. I have a great relationship with my wife. I would say this as an affirmation, and I would feel gratitude for having my wife Robin in my life. Goal number 12. I have a great spiritual relationship with God. I said this as an affirmation, and I would feel gratitude for everything in my life, for the things that were on their way. What happened over the following 3 years of writing out these goals is nothing short of a miracle. Writing this down and realizing that this story happened to me inspires me even today. I was there, and I still feel a sense of bewilderment as I relay the story and sequence of events which came to pass to make my dreams come true. Without further ado, here's how it all played out on the universe's playground. I got a notice in the mail saying that my real estate salesperson license was coming up for renewal and that I was required to take a mandatory continuing education class if I wanted to keep the license. I decided that it would make a lot more sense if I took a few extra hours and went for the real estate broker's license, and that way I could keep all the commission and could work independently. It was at this point that I remembered the movie that had played out at the beach, which had me being a real estate broker who was active in charities. Now that I was more spiritual, I started to wonder if this was what I should have been doing before. I signed up for the classes and began working toward my Florida real estate broker's license. With my broker's license, I could open up my own brokerage company. To adhere to the movie, I decided that I would give 10% of our gross commission from each sale to charity. On a Sunday afternoon in Sarasota in the spring of 2003, my wife and I were driving down to the waterfront to have lunch at a restaurant called Marina Jack. On the way, I stopped at an ATM to get $20 out. As we drove, we started throwing around names for the new charity-based brokerage I was going to open. We finally settled on the name Benefactor Realty, and we went into the restaurant for lunch. After lunch, we decided to walk along the waterfront park, which had a number of large sculptures on display. As we walked down the sidewalk, a man came up to us and asked us if we could spare any money. He needed $8 so that he could sleep at the shelter and get a meal and a shower. I put my hand in my right front pocket and pulled out $2. I apologized to him for not having more, but he thanked us graciously. As I walked away, I remembered that I had gotten the $20 bill from the ATM and that it was in my back pocket. I turned around and went back to the man and saw that another Good Samaritan was handing him a $5 bill, telling him that his luck was changing and now he was 2 for 2. I gave him the $20 I had found in my pocket. There was something different about this person. He did not look like the many homeless I had seen before. He was dressed in the clothes of a tradesman, and he had the clearest blue eyes I had ever seen. As he started to walk along the waterfront with us, he told us this story of how his girlfriend had hurt her back in a car accident, and how she had gotten hooked on pain pills. He said that he had tried to take the pills away from her, and she had called the police on him and filed a restraining order saying that he was abusive. Now that he could not go back to his home, he was worried that he was going to become homeless. To give him hope, I told him about the story of Og Mandino. Og was at one time in his life a homeless and hopeless alcoholic. Og started to read self-help books at the library and turned himself into a millionaire, a best-selling author, and an incredible motivational speaker. I also told the man that he should get his hands on a Bible. At that moment, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, brand-new, white-covered version of the New Testament. I don't know how I did this, but I went to look for the verse from the Gospel of Mark that I read every day on the beach, and as if by magic, I hit the exact page on my first try. I read him the verse. I then went to find the verse from Matthew that I read in my hour of power, and again I hit the exact page on my first try. I read that verse to him, and after telling him that everything was going to work out, I handed him back his copy of the New Testament. He thanked us again and said that we had really helped him out. After I had walked about 7 steps away from the man, I got this rush of energy that I can only describe as what happens on that old television series, The Highlander, when Duncan MacLeod goes through a quickening. I could feel my whole body tingling the way it did the day Mary from Habitat hugged me. All I know is that whole experience was strange, to say the least. I also remember wondering if that was somehow a test to see if I was serious about having a company called Benefactor Realty and about giving to charity. Not long after that, I opened up Benefactor Realty and began to work as a real estate broker part-time when I was not at my temp job. Fortunately, most people who have jobs do most of their looking at properties on the weekend. One Sunday afternoon, on our way back from looking at a restaurant site on the East Coast, I received 2 calls saying that offers we had put in for a buyer had gotten accepted, which was great news as we had another property go under contract on Saturday. I was now looking at making more money in 3 days than I could in 6 months on the temp job. My wife looked at me and said, "Pete, you can't afford to work there anymore." We drove home and I wondered if I should really quit my day job and embark on this real estate thing. About 10 years earlier, I had tried leaving corporate to open a small business, which didn't make it because it was undercapitalized, and I was worried about it happening again. The following morning, I went into my office to try to figure out what to do. I will never forget the call that changed my life. It was around 10 a.m. on Monday morning when my office phone rang. It was my good friend Bill. I had worked with him and we had been downsized together by our former, now bankrupt, employer. When I answered, Bill asked me, "What are you doing?" I thought this was weird, so I said, "Bill, you called me at work. What do you think I'm doing?" Bill then said, "That's not what I meant. What I meant was, what are you thinking? Are you thinking about doing something?" I told him that I was thinking about leaving the hospital and selling real estate. He said, "The money is there. The money is there." Bill then told me that he had been meditating at the lake by his house when a message came beaming in from the universe which said that he needed to call me and give me the message that the money is there. You can't make this kind of stuff up. As if getting 3 deals under contract was not enough, now I had the universe calling me on the telephone. Not being one to question the universe, I immediately sent an email to my director to tell him I was going to be resigning. A few minutes later he called me to tell me that he was happy for me and that he knew it was only a matter of time before I left to do something with real estate. I then went to meet with my original investors and asked them if they would be interested in investing with me again. This time it was going to be as a private line of credit for my new company. They were excited about the new opportunity and wrote me a check on the spot. Bill's words were now echoing again, and the money really was there. Driving back home on my normal route that week, I looked off to the side and saw a pearl white Lexus LS400 with chrome trim and the gold package with the for sale sign on it. I pulled into the parking lot and walked over to the car. It was the car that had kept popping up in my visualizations. It was not a car that looked like the car. It was the exact car. Without hesitation, I called the number on the sign and bought the car. I then got a call from a wonderful tenant we had in a rental property. She called to ask me if I would help her find a house to purchase, as she did not want to get priced out of the market. I said sure, and then I asked her if she wanted to buy the one she was in. She wasn't sure if she could afford it, but I told her I would help her with closing costs, etc. What I hadn't realized was that this property had appreciated by almost $35,000 over a 2-year period since we bought it. In less than a 60-day period, I had opened a new company and left my job, sold 3 properties as a broker, sold the rental house for a windfall profit, and paid off all my consumer debt, including the 2 cars, all the credit cards, and my student loans. This was totally out of the blue, and totally blew me away. My life had completely changed for the better. When I wrote those dozen goals, I never saw any of this coming. I had no idea how it was going to happen. All I knew was that it was my job to keep believing it was going to happen and let the universe handle the details. That same year, my wife and I went on our ski vacation to Breckenridge, Colorado, and 12 months later, we bought a waterfront home close to the beach. With help from the universe, we blew the crazy goals out of the water. There was more to come the following year, and this is going to blow you away. Chapter 2. Winning the Lottery. After an unbelievable year during which all of my goals and dreams came true, I started to think about what else there was that I truly wanted to